The Connection Show. Inspiring hope, health, healing, connecting the dots of your story and transforming your life. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds.
Welcome to the Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing in the world. Hi, I'm Jill Reynolds, and joining me from Florida this evening is my good friend, Mr. Unstoppable Terrance Leftridge. Welcome, Terrance.
Thank you. Hey. It is an unstoppable day, Jill. Thanks so much for allowing me to be on your show again.
Well, I'm grateful you could jump on because we've got some exciting things going on. And I would love the audience to get to know a little bit about Terrance. He's an amazing man of God and he has an amazing story. So let's take the journey back to little Terrance growing up and tell the audience what life was like in your home.
Well, little Terrence, I was about to jump on you because I'm still little, but I learned over the course of my 5 decades on the planet that good things come in small packages, Jill. I am a product of the city of Chicago, Chi-Town, for those who know it well. Born and raised, just made the transition to Florida about 4 or 5 years ago. And I had a childhood, Jill, that if you were to put it into words, you would call it average. And many people might think that's a good thing, but for me, I came to learn that that wasn't the greatest thing. I had a average childhood. I did all the things that average kids do. I went to school. I played in the band. I grew up in the house with my two brothers and my one sister to a single mom, a widowed mom. But I didn't lack for anything during that time. And most people, when they saw little Terrance, they called him little husky Terrance. So I didn't lack for food. And I was in activities. As I said, I was in band in high school. I did some acting in grammar school and in high school. And I graduated, went to college and graduated from college and got my first good job that had a check attached to it, as opposed to just doing it for free. So I did all the average things. And as we talk about your show, you've probably had some people that's been on the show that talked about some tragic parts of their life. Well, I didn't have that. And so I
Well,
thought,
and let's pause the but you know what we get a lot of, and I crack up, not crack up laughing because that's not the appropriate thing. I get a lot of people who say, I lived in the perfect family, and I'm like, oh, wow, was it heaven? And
yeah,
and so I think you're one of my first guests that called it an average home because you'll either have people, oh, I lived in a wonderful family, mother, dad, we were just the happiest family, or it was a nightmare. So you're kind of like in that middle, and it's
yeah.
interesting to see. Can we take the recording back just a little bit in little Terrence's life to you mentioning mom was a widow and how and where was dad? What happened with dad, if you know the story behind that?
So my dad died when I was 1 years old. So I didn't really get to know my dad. The only thing, the image of my dad that I have is from drawings that families have made or pictures that he took before I was born. He died of stomach cancer. So back in that at that time, technology and medicine wasn't as advanced as it is today. So they weren't able to catch it in time in order to spare his life. And so my mom and the four kids she raised them, I won't say by herself, but with the majority of herself for most of my life. Now, we did have that village that took care of us kids because I lived in the house with my mom, my aunt, and my grandma. We had what's called you're from Chicago, so we had what's called a two flat in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. Some people call it duplexes, some people call it multifamilies, depending on what part of the country you're from. But one big family, two apartments, one building under the same roof. So I had
Yeah.
my mom taking care of me. I had my grandma taking care of me. I had my aunt taking care of me at various times through the course of my childhood. And then we had the outer village. We had the schools, the teachers, the priests. I went to Catholic school for most of my elementary school and high school life. And so we had mentors in the community, and God had a way of always having a father figure in my life to replace the father that wasn't in my life. So
So
that's
sorry for so going back then, thank you. That's great. And I never knew a lot of this about, so that's why I love this show, because you get to know each other so much
yes.
better. So two things that came up. Did you become an altar boy?
No.
Okay, I wanted to know about that. And then when Dad died when you were 1 years old, and where are you in the with the children? Where are you? Where do you
I
feel they
am the baby of the bunch.
the
I'm the baby
baby?
of the bunch by birth, but some would say I'm the leader of the pack by responsibility.
And how much older is the oldest sibling from
So
you?
my oldest brother is 5 years older than me,
Okay, so
and
when
then there's
Dad died, he was 6. He was 6. And how old was Mom at that time? Do you know Mom's age when Father passed
well,
away?
you know, a lady never tells their age, Jill.
Yeah. Well, I think it has a lot of bearing for your story though with Mom. Do you
hmm
know? Do you remember
She was
Mom's
still
age?
a, she was still a young mom. She was still in her 20s at the time.
Right, right. So with that, even though Grandma was around and Auntie was around, um, do you recall anything at all with how your brother and your two siblings that knew your father more, of course, than you, and how Mom handled grief at such a young age?
My mom was a woman who she took care of her family. So she worked two jobs in order to do that. And so that's why having the village to take care of us was so important, because she was taking on the mom and dad roles. I can remember many times when Mother's Day and Father's Day came around, we would give her gifts on Father's Day too, because she was mother and father combined. So she deserved both of those holidays. We didn't If there was grief, she didn't show it. She is and was and continues to be a very strong person at the tender age of 84 right now. So
Wow.
she's
Yeah.
still still does everything. So she's one of those people that taught me what it meant to have strength and to have perseverance and to be the man that you see and you know today.
Well, it sounds as though Mom was instrumental in instilling the Miss Unstoppable that passed on to Mr. Unstoppable.
Right. My mom would say such things like, if she's got to get up to go to work, everybody's got to get up to go to work. Now, you might not be going to a job, but you're going to some work. She instilled responsibility. She instilled values. She instilled a work ethic that I carry on today. So yes, she was a strong foundation.
That's awesome. What part of the Chicagoland area did you grow up in? I'm from the suburbs, Terrence, but in retrospective, like streets and neighborhoods,
Right.
what hood did you live
Yeah,
in?
yeah. And because you said Chicagoland, I knew that you weren't physically, maybe at some point you lived physically in Chicago, but I was physically a product of the South Side of Chicago. So I stayed in what we used to call the Wild Wild Hundreds in the Roseland area. So it's
Okay.
south of what was Comiskey Park then, but
Okay.
just north of the Alsip, which is the closest suburb.
So is that by University of Chicago? Um, uh,
University of Chicago is Hyde Park, so I was further south than that.
okay. All right.
If
Helps
you're
me out.
familiar with if you're familiar with Chicago State University, I was closer to there.
Okay, son. Well, I was an outside sales Terrence for years, so I drove everywhere no matter what. And it's kind of funny because I don't even know if you know the story about me, but when I worked for 15 years selling copiers for a living, one day we got a phone call from the Chicago row houses at Cabrini Green wanting
Hmm.
a new copier for the office there. And when the call came in, my boss said, "Who wants to go to Cabrini Green and sell a copier?" And none of the guys in the office would go. They go, "No, I'm not going to Cabrini Green." I go, "Oh, you guys are wimps. I'll go." And everyone cracked up laughing and said, "Jill, you're the only one I know that's not afraid to go to the inner city with drive-by shootings and sell a copier."
Yeah, well, it no matter what part of Chicago you were in, I used to always tell the story. You could go on one block and it's just pristine, beautiful, and you can go on the next block and it's a whole different story. So it didn't matter on what side of the city you were on or either what suburb you were in. There was a charm to Chicago and the Chicagoland area that you had to really look for. So I'm
So
glad I'm glad you were there.
So in the neighborhood that you grew up in, again, like I said, I ended up my first place I lived when I left the suburbs was Old Town, North Avenue in Wells. So I did live in the city for about a year. And I was told by a former roommate at the time, he goes, "Jill," and he was a black male probation officer. He goes, "Jill, white girls do not walk west from North Avenue and Wells. You do not walk west. You walk east." And I had a rude awakening because I grew up in, Elk Grove and Des Plaines, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean I don't walk west?" He goes, "If you want to stay alive, you walk east, Jill." And so in the neighborhood you were at, because there's all different neighborhoods on the south side, did you experience any kind of fear or trauma with gangs and drive-by shootings, or was your neighborhood pretty more quiet neighborhood? Because, like you said, you can go to 5 blocks here, and you're like I said, 5 blocks here east, great. You go west, a whole different story. Friends of mine lived in Lawndale off of Independence, and it was all drive-by shootings there. So, in the neighborhood you were in, what was that like as a child growing up?
So, like I said earlier, one block could be pristine, the other block could be hell on earth, literally. They called it the Wild Wild Hundred because it was actually that. It was wild in the blocks from 100th all the way to 127th, which was the end of the line south for the city limits of Chicago. So, but my block, we lived in the middle of the block. So
Okay.
even one block being pristine, one block being hell on earth, in some blocks, there could be part of the block that was pristine, and the other part of the block, again, where there was hell on earth. We had a liquor store at the end of the block, and it was a very popular liquor store. It was right across the street from a gas station. So when you combine a gas station next to a liquor store, there's a lot of traffic. We lived in the middle of that block, and everybody knew my mom, and everybody knew my grandma, and everybody knew our dog named Pepper. Pepper was a 9-year-old former police dog that the one of the policemen gave to my grandmother. And so, just to tell you a real quick story to show you what reverence we had on our block, we had a gate around our house. Many of the other houses didn't, but we did because our house sat on two lots because it was a two flat. And we had a sign on the gate, beware of dog. You've seen those signs before. And sometimes people listen and sometimes people don't. This one time, three boys decided that they didn't want to listen. They wanted to run in our backyard.
Hmm.
And our garage, you remember Chicago, either your garage was at the back of the house or if it was attached to your house, it was at the front of the house. Well, we had a detached house, a detached garage, and a long driveway that ran along the side of our house. They decided to come in through that gate and walk back towards our garage for whatever nefarious thing they were going to try to do. At the back door of our house, there was good old Pepper. And Pepper heard these people in our backyard. They didn't know Pepper existed. They saw the sign, but they didn't care. They got halfway by the house towards the garage, and Pepper shoots out the back door. Running, 9-year-old German Shepherd. They literally shake in their pants, turn the other direction, and they're running back out the gate. But now they had closed the gate behind them. So, being boys, they thought they could just jump the gate and they'd be good. Two of them jumped the gate, Jill, and they were good. But the third one started climbing the fence, and here comes Pepper, and you know the rest of the story.
Wow.
Pepper came back into the house with the pair of jeans in his mouth, and the young boy went away bloody, but they never came back into our yard again.
And I bet they shared that story with their friends saying, "Don't ever
Yeah.
go to that house with the beware the dog.
Never
Don't
had
you
a problem
ever."
again.
Oh,
And
that's
that created the legacy on the block that everybody knew no matter what else was happening on that block, don't bring it inside that fence.
Yep. There's always those boundaries you got to listen to. So,
Yes.
Terrence, you went off to college. Where did you go to college, did you say? Maybe I missed it. I'm sorry.
I never said I went to University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign.
Okay,
It
so you
was
were
the only, because of our situation, my mom didn't have the money to pay at that time for application fees. You know, you had to pay for applications for every college you wanted to apply to. And my mom said, okay, Terrance, you want to go away? You better pick one school because I'm only paying one application fee, and you better get in. Otherwise, you're going to be going to Daly College, which was the closest Chicago college at that time. So I did the application fee and I had good scores. And so I made it into the University of Illinois and I went there originally studying finance, ended up with a degree in business administration. And you know what I do today.
So what was it like going from the inner city to the cornfields of
Absolutely.
Urbaniship? It's
You
cornfields.
know, it was an hour and a half drive unless I was driving, then it was an hour and 15 minutes. Hour and 15 minutes straight down I-57, past the cornfields, past the Rantoul Air Force Base into Urbana-Champaign, which when I first got there, I thought Urbana-Champaign was a name of one city. It's only till I got on campus that I realized it was two cities, Urbana and then Champaign. It wasn't that bad for me because Jill, I had relatives that lived in Champaign. So I
Okay.
had some people that I could be in contact with, and a lot of the people that I knew from Chicago ended up going there as well.
So
But
did you
now
did you co- did you commute or live on campus?
I lived on campus. No,
Okay.
it was far enough to leave, but close enough to come home. So
So
that
so
that's
let so let me ask you a question about Urbana Champagne. Did you learn how to hunt turkey in the fall and the winter months? Did you go hunting? Because nothing's better hunting than Urbana Champagne on those farms.
Jill, you and I had different experiences. Nope, never hunted turkey, but I did a whole lot of hiking because so the name of our campuses, our student housing, we had student housing in Urbana, we had student housing in Champaign. So my housing in Hopkins was in Champaign, but we had classes over by another one of the housing, which was called FAR. Now, FAR stood for the street that it was on, but we called it FAR because it was far. It was far away. And at that time, uh we didn't have we didn't have buses. So we did a lot of walking. We did a lot of hiking. I went through a lot of shoes, Jill, during my college experience. Hiking in the hot weather at the beginning of the school year, hiking in the 12 to 24 inches of snow because Champaign had cornfields in the summer, but it had a whole lot of snow in the wintertime. And just
Mm-hmm.
like Chicago, it got very cold. But
Yeah.
unlike Chicago, there was no tall buildings to stop the wind from going. So it definitely also built to my, you'll love this word, resilience in doing what I needed to do to get the education that I got.
Well, my grandpa remarried. My father's my father's mother passed away when I was only 6 months old. And my grandpa, he remarried a woman from Urbana. So my
Oh,
grandpa lived in Urbana, and my father, my grandpa's, I think, brother's Uncle Charlie lived on a farm in Urbana, Champaign. So we used to go there every year, and the guys would all go hunting. That's why I asked, "Did you go hunting?" And I remember like the old farmhouse with the rope around the tree with the tire, and we'd go swinging on that
wow.
tire. And I remember we played cowboys and Indians as kids growing up in Champaign Urbana. And my step grandma Nona, she had trees in the backyard of apples and peaches, and she made the best apple pie and peach pie. So that's my memories of
Those are
Urbana.
wonderful memories. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
where did your lovely lovely wife come into play into your life?
So she came in my 30s,
Okay.
and I just happened to be on a trip to Cancun, Mexico, with my good friend, two good friends from college. They just happened to get married after we graduated from college. So I went with them because they had a timeshare and I was just getting out of a relationship. And so I was the third wheel. So, Jill, if you've ever traveled with a married couple and you're single, you know at some point they're like, you need to go someplace. And so one evening they told me I need to go someplace. So I went walking in the streets of Cancun, downtown Cancun, and my wife was there with her two girlfriends. We didn't know each other from a can of paint. And so we met in the middle of the street dancing in front of a bar in Cancun, Mexico. And the rest, 22 years later, is history.
Now, where was she from? You met her in Cancun. Where was she residing when you met her?
New Jersey.
Jersey. You got a
Hmm.
Jersey girl.
Hmm.
All right. So you had this, and at that time, now you graduated college. Are you still living in Chicago at this point in
Yeah.
your life?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got a long distance relationship. How long did the long distance relationship work till you said this is ridiculous? Let's
So
get married.
it wasn't even a relationship. It was I met her in Cancun. We had some fantastic days. We exchanged phone numbers. Your audience probably doesn't even know what that means anymore to exchange phone numbers, but we literally had to exchange phone numbers. And at that time, it was the beginning of what they call dial-up on computer. AOL. Doo,
Okay.
doo, doo, doo. So we would talk to each other mainly when we dialed up on AOL and we saw each other on Messenger. And so we met in 1999. We didn't officially start dating until 2021, and we got married in 2001, and we got married in 2002.
Wow. And did she then come to Chicago when you married?
Yes, and that's a great story because while we were on AOL, Instant Messenger, for those number of years, I had invited her to come to Chicago many times, Jill. And I remind her of it every time we talk because there was this one time she typed on AOL in big, bold, the loud screaming letters. I'm not coming to Chicago, so stop asking. So again, they don't call me Mr. Unstoppable for nothing. I didn't stop asking. I just kept asking. So if
So when she decided to get married to you, is that when she moved? Or did she move before you actually got married then?
That's when she didn't move until we actually got married. But the year before we got engaged, I asked her one more time to come to Chicago. And she said she was coming. But now, Jill, after all this time of her saying she wasn't going to come, and I was like, "Stop, Joshins! Don't stop playing! Don't do me that way." And then the next message I got from her was airline ticket itinerary. Now I'd been pressing the issue, pressing the issue, pressing the issue, never expecting her to say yes, and then she said yes.
Well, you know what I find interesting getting to know you a little bit more in hearing this is what I've discovered from my son, at least. It's could be totally different, is I've seen this before too, that the women usually wear the pants in the family when it comes to when a man and a woman are getting married and they're from different cities, the woman dictates where you're going to live. If the woman says no, if you want to be with me, you're coming to Jersey, and I find that interesting. So with her being in New Jersey, because women tend to be more inclined to want to stay around their family, mom and siblings, whereas men, they're like, if I stay with mom, I'm here, but otherwise I can flee. So how did she handle being the one that came to you versus you going to her?
Well, the good thing about it is that we both were adventurous. So the agreement was that we would get married in Jersey, but she'd move to Chicago. And so that's how it happened. So that's how I got really acclimated with Jersey. And that's how she got on her new adventure to be with this great guy, Papa Collar, and to come to this great city that she had never been to before.
Awesome. Now, do you guys have children?
No, we have a 13-year-old dog that eats us out of house and home.
Is he a police dog? He-
She is the furthest thing from a police dog. It's so bad now. I walk in the door and she doesn't even leave her bed. It's like there's a joke by this comedian that we talk about, and it's like she says, "Oh, him here," and that's it. I smell you. Okay, I'm not moving. Yeah. I
That's
know
your
you're here.
That's your
Yeah.
baby. Well, I don't want to go too deep into your career path because we've got something cool coming up. First, I want to stop for just a moment and show Terrance's bio. So, this is Terrance's bio. It's got his website, how to connect with him. But we also have an event coming up, and I'd love to play this marketing video and then we'll come right back. So, hang tight.
Hi, I'm Kevin Harrington. I'm an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and I'm here with Brendan. We've got a big event happening this fall in Kansas City, and I'm going to be there. And I know you're going to be there, Brendan. Let's tell the folks all about it so we can get them there too.
Are you letting fear, doubt, insecurities, what other people think stop you? Are you ready to get to the next level of your life? That's what we do. Go on over to comechangeyourlife.com, see what's going on. We have events all over, but we have a powerful event coming up this fall where Kevin is going to be speaking. So if you want to come meet him, you want to come meet me and my team, come on, comechangeyourlife.com.
So as you can see, Terrance is emceeing and he's part on the board of directors of Becoming the Better You. So share a little
Yes.
bit, Terrance. We've got an amazing event coming up in Kansas City, September 13th and 14th. We're right around the corner from it. And I didn't want the audience today to hear too much about your career path because I want them to come to Kansas City so they can hear about Mr. Unstoppable. So share,
Right.
share a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, Terrance, how you met Brenda Ringwood and what drew you into the Becoming the Better You movement.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Becoming the Better You, the brainchild of the illustrious professor of change, Brenda Ringwood. And if you don't know who that name is, then you have to have your face in the place September 13th and 14th in Kansas City. We met in 2017 at a experience very similar to what we've been creating now for the past 3 years. And through our mutual friend, Dr. Ruben West, it was his conference in St. Louis that we got a chance to meet. And at that point, Brenda was on her own journey to what she was going to be doing next. The name of the experience was called Live Your Best Life, as a matter of fact. So in that, we learned how to live our best life, but we also learned how to become better speakers, better communicators, which led her on her path towards speaking. And over the course of it, we connected, and then we connected again in 2019. And she told me a little bit about this ideal that she had to help people become a better version of themselves. And then 2020 came. And then, of course, the world changed at that point. At that point, we were looking at doing a little experience of our own, doing it in person, but then the world shut down. And so we had to pause and then we had to pivot and say, how could we still do this? And so we had to cancel that in person that year. But then later on in the year, we decided to do a virtual event. And at that time, she was talking to other speakers, and then she asked me to come on and speak. And so I came on and spoke. But I had experience doing the virtual world because I have my own show called The Unstoppable Stories Show, where we talk to ordinary people with unstoppable stories. So I knew the virtual platform. Her, not so much. So some technical things started happening, and I jumped in and I did what I did as being a host of my own show. And then the light bulb came on. She's like, Terrance, why don't you come on and MC the next one with me? And so I MC'd the next one, and we gelled. We gelled like brothers and sisters from other parents. And I'm always in the if it's something where I can help somebody be better, if it's something where I can help somebody do more, have more, and be more, then I'm all in. And so when she told me the vision for what is now becoming a better you, I was all in, whatever you need. And so almost now 5 years later of doing this virtually, doing this in person, doing this in Kansas City, doing this across the country, and now doing this across the world, we are truly what we're defining what our experience is this time around, a work in progress. We've seen the growth in BTBY from a few people to hundreds of people to from a few people in one city to thousands of people across the world that are buying in and really seeing this movement grow, and they want to get on board and they want to get on the train and they want to see where this thing can go. And so that's why I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I'm so honored that she asked me not only to be on the board, but she asked me to be the chief operating officer for BTBY. So I thank her so much for that. I thank her for whatever she sees in me that she feels enhances what's going on with BTBY, just like what we see with you, because you're an integral part of what we do at BTBY as well.
Well, thank you. And you guys, you cannot believe the stuff that Terrance does for us. He is very humble, but without Terrance, the BTBY couldn't go on. I just believe that, Terrance. You're an integral part of this organization, and we look so much forward to hearing more about Mr. Unstoppable when we get to Kansas City. So, in closing, Terrance, I thank you so much for your vulnerability tonight. I learned so much more about you that I had no idea. And I've known you a couple of years, but Terrance, we get so busy with our activities with the event. It's sometimes difficult to know the intricate parts of each other's personal life. So this has
Yes.
been really exciting for me tonight to get to
Well,
know
but
you.
wait, Jill, there's
What?
more.
What?
Got a curveball for you, and
Go.
for your audience. I told you Jill is an integral part of what we do at BTBY. She's been of service, which is one of our pillars to BTBY since she's been a part of BTBY. But Jill also invested in herself, and someone way smarter than me said, "Invest in yourself to the level that you expect results." We have a program within BTBY called Becoming the Best Speaker. And Jill has her own show. She's had her own show for years. She's interviewed thousands of people, but she still recognized that she could be a better speaker, a better communicator, and a better version of herself. So Jill was part of our class, our last speaker class. 8 weeks virtual. I'm one of the coaches along with the professor of change, and we help people become better speakers, better communicators, and then work with them to take it to the next level of where they want to go. But then we also award someone who gives the best presentation out of those 8 weeks. And I am glad to announce on your show, Jill, that Jill Reynolds was the first place recipient of the Becoming the Best Speaker Spring 2024 class. And for the first time, this is your award, Jill.
Thank you, Terrance. I can't wait to get it next week in Kansas City. But it was an honor to be on the show, you guys, and on this class. So, if any of you have ever desired to share your story and learn the benefits of coaching and being able to learn the different principles of speaking on stage, Brenda and Terrance have put together a fabulous program. They teach you step by step different things. I think the biggest challenge, Terrance, that I had is when we had to do a talk, and it had to be under 5 minutes, and then the last one had to be between 8 to 10. And
Yes.
if we went under 8, we were disqualified. If we went over 10, we were disqualified. And you don't get to have a clock. You just have to learn how to present within a time frame without a clock. And that's really a challenge. And it really challenged me to learn how not to talk in circles.
Yes.
Get to the point,
Yes.
make clarity, get rid of your and it's just different things and techniques. So you guys, when is the next class starting up? Do you have a date yet, Terrance?
Yes, the next class is starting September 23rd, right after our conference. So we're going to be giving out more information about that at the conference. So you can come on September 13th and 14th, and you can actually register. We invite you to register if you're looking to improve your speaking, not just to become a professional speaker, but to become a better communicator. Maybe you want to be a better communicator in your relationships. Maybe you want to be a better salesperson for your entrepreneurial business. Whatever it is where you want to be a better speaker, then Become the Best Speaker Academy is the academy for you. If you just can't wait, you can go to www.comechangeyourlife.com and click on the BTBS banner, and it'll give you more information about that as well. But Jill, we thank you for investing in yourself. We thank you for becoming a better person by becoming a better speaker. And we can't wait to give you this award in person in just a few days in Kansas City.
Well, thank you. And I am continuing to be a work in progress. And that is our theme, you guys. So come and sign up now. I'm going to end with showing you the image of the event. It says, "Join me in Terrance in Kansas City." Hear me and other award-winning speakers. And like Terrance just said, go to comechangeyourlife.com. And then this is a flyer of myself. I am known as the resilient Braveheart, inspiring hope, health, and healing. And Kansas is only 3.5 hours away from where I live in Branson. It's pretty geographical, so it's easy to get to. So sign up now. As you saw in the marketing video, we have Kevin Harrington going to be there, and I think there's a few spots left that you can pitch
Pitch a shark.
pitch a
Absolutely.
shark. Picture Shark. So you sign up now, and we look forward to seeing you. Terrance, stay on just for a few minutes. And guests, thank you for joining us tonight on The Connection Show, where we love to inspire hope, health, and healing in the world. Thanks, Terrance.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on The Connection Show, where we bring you stories that will transform your life. The Connection Show would appreciate your support. Please go to either our Patreon page or our PayPal Me Now link today. We love our podcast show guests and appreciate our listeners and YouTube subscribers. Please go to our YouTube channel called The Connection Show and Braveheart Workshops and subscribe now. Remember to click the gray bell in the All tab so you don't miss any upcoming episodes.